Hi guys, it's Nathan here from Headbangers. Today we've got Jakob from Atena. Now, if you've not heard of Atena, they're a great metalcore band. They've released a new EP that's pretty decent, so I'd highly recommend checking out as well as their older stuff. In this episode, we sort of talk about Athena as a band as a whole, a lot about metalcore, and a lot of we kind of go on a lot of tangents. It's a very tangently full episode, which is pretty good to be fair. Yeah, so if you like the podcast and you want to support us, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, drop us a rating on streaming platforms if you're listening to Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you're listening to this on, because it does help us out. Social medias are Headbangers Podcast and everything except for Twitter, where it's Headbangers Pod 1. We also do have a Patreon, so if you do want to toss a coin to your Witcher, or value plenty, it's there. But yeah, without any further ado, here's the episode. Welcome back to the Headbangers Podcast, where your hosts Nathan and Brad. Here today we're joined by Jakob from Atena. How are you starting to get with? How are you doing?
I'm great. It's nice to be here.
Great stuff. So we like to start with like a little icebreaker on the show. What's your funniest gig or tour story that you can recall?
I don't know. There's tons of little ones. Adult people losing control of their bodily functions. It's always a classic. Adult people tripping and hurting themselves. The members of my band, that is. I don't know if there's like one exceptionally great story, but there's lots of great moments. Like, if you've ever been up close and seen the guy, like the neck guy from Cannibal Corpse in real life.
Yeah, I've seen him on stage. We haven't got him on the podcast unfortunately yet, but I know what you mean.
We were fortunate enough to play a German festival a couple of years ago, and we were just chilling backstage, and that neck thing walks past us. It's like something out of a movie. Like, what was that? Oh, it's that guy. Just tons of moments like that. It's a bad example. I don't know. I don't think I have an amazing life story. Just small moments.
No, there's still time. You mentioned that adult people losing the ability of their functions. Who's like the biggest liability in the band?
The guy who plays the bass is the biggest cliche ever, but it's true. Have you guys played in any bands?
Yeah, I have. Brad hasn't.
Yeah, so I'm sure you're well aware of all the cliches. You might be as well, Brad. But yeah,
I've seen it. Yeah, maybe not in a band setting, but certainly going out.
It's just human behavior. Yeah, it's he's the friendliest guy ever, but he likes to have fun, and we have to take care of him. Take care of him afterwards.
What? There's something about bass players, man.
Yeah,
it's just like they for some reason they're all like records. It's just crazy.
Yeah, he just got his license a couple of weeks ago. We've been driving him around for almost 10 years. So now he's going to start contributing. It's going to be great. Great times ahead.
One thing that I want to ask you as well is, I know that you guys, with your music, you sort of delve more into like darker themes.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to just sort of ask on that is, can it get like mentally taxing having to constantly delve into that sort of mindset to then write? Or do you find it's more therapeutic?
It's both. It helps that we have people like the aforementioned bass player in the band to balance it out, like over time. But I'm guessing you're thinking about the writing process. And
just when you go into that writing process, I imagine it from doing it myself, when you have to get into like, if you're writing a song that's particularly dark, when you get into that headspace, I find it's a lot harder to shake sometimes than you than you initially like sort of think.
I mean, when you're writing or just when you're thinking, you're having conversations with yourself, and if there's already a limit that you've set that there has to be this dark theme, then you're just having a negative spin on every thought. So yeah, it can become I don't want to say a burden because you immediately put it into something creative, so that makes it a good experience again. So it's a mixed bag of emotions. I'm sure you've experienced the same thing yourselves, or especially you if you write music, Nathan. The one thing I will say about writing for Atena is Vebjørn, he's the guy who writes all the songs and he has most of the visions, and I try to build up around that.
Hmm.
Like he wrote the core concepts, like we did some concept records, the previous ones, and it all comes from his mind. And I always get this, um, I tend to get a really bad feeling in my stomach when he proposes what we're supposed to write our songs about. Like it's uncomfortable, the themes he suggests. And whenever I get that bad feeling, the songs become good. If
Yeah,
if
it's
that
just it's a weird thing, isn't it? Like I feel like all good art comes from like a bad place, but it's not always the easiest. But I guess at the same time, like throwing that onto a canvas and sort of getting rid of those feelings and just saying, okay, here it goes to the world now, can be, I imagine, a bit therapeutic too.
yeah,
It's kind of like going to the gym, really, isn't it? Like, when you feel like bad, but you go to the gym and you get those natural endorphins. And probably it's similar to like, writing music. It's like a release of those feelings.
it is, but there's also something really uncomfortable about being too, like, fearing that you're being too direct about something. Because
I
I
get that.
don't,
If you write
what?
about a specific scenario as well, I get that because you
Yeah,
write about a specific scenario, they're like, well, I don't want this person to know that I've basically shat on them through this entire song. Like, do you know
yeah.
what I mean? Like, you're constantly thinking, will they know? Will they know it's about them? Like,
I mean, you can get away from this by doing thesaurus metal or dictionary metal, like all the black metal bands,
Yeah.
and that can be cool. There's a place for that, but it can become boring. So I guess that's what we try to do is be more direct, but that could become just too blunt and too uncomfortable to listen to as well. So there's some traps you can end up in there. And that's why I often get like a guttural reaction to some of the themes he proposes. Like just naming a song, death is all I think about, and sampling snippets of other people talking about suicide. Like it's pushing some boundaries even for me. But then he puts it in a fitting musical context and it becomes something that we're all proud of. And that's a nice feeling.
Yeah, I'm just like doing it right, doing it justice as opposed to like, okay, we're just gonna sing about this and it's just being dark for the sake of it. It sounds like, good
Yeah.
personal feelings involved, but also like, painting it in the right way. So no, I respect that a lot. I want to touch on because I know that you guys and like I've read a few of your past interviews that you've done before. And you've suggested that, the band likes to take a cinematic tone, for your music. And I think that's very like prevalent in the new album, the new EP as well. Would you say that's a true thing? Like you guys think of music like cinematically when you're writing?
Yeah. Webern is, I don't know, everybody likes movies, but he's more cinematically minded. He'll have strong opinions on all those things. And I think a lot of his inspirations for the sounds come from like visual inspirations, like interstellar shit,
Hell yeah.
uh, turning it into stuff on his H string instead, like the organs and the space themes and stuff. And then my job is kind of like I'm lucky to be able to make melodies and sing on top of that because I get to do different things with my voice. Um, they'll often be, I don't know, what do you mean by cinematic, like in this context?
Well, I guess like because I read that someone and I can't remember which member it was said that they like to think of the album like cinematically. So kind of I guess like you said like visually So, you'd think visually and then write the music or something along those lines. Which is, to be fair, this is kind of how I view music because I'm not a musician. So like, when I listen to music, I'll think of places or I'll think of like a vibe that it's going for, which is kind of cool. I always wondered, does everyone have this sort of feeling when they listen to certain bands, or is it just me because I'm not a musician? But yeah, that's kind of
No, I think good music does that. And again, like there's always a theme or a set of themes that are on the record for us. It was really pronounced on the last three ones because they were concept records. And as much as I hate it to be true, like lyrics that tell a story are better lyrics often because they can do that to people more easily. And that is a cinematic thing, like the storytelling
definitely
aspect of it. Yeah.
Yeah, especially when it goes into like concept albums, like that is almost like a little mini movie for the ears, isn't it really?
Yeah.
So like
sure.
was it hard to like, 'cause you've like you said, you've done like 3 concept albums and now you've chosen to go for like a more sort of diverse set of songs that are not related to each other at all. Was it weird for you guys to do that, or by the time you've done 3 concept albums, you're like, oh, I can't be fucking arsed with another concept album, let's do something else?
I think especially for Vebjørn, who has been living with this material so intensely, he was more of the latter, kind of sick of having to write all these things out in his head. I'm sure he has thought of things he haven't even told us, like how the story checks out and everything. So I think it was, or I know it was a good thing creatively to like free up and have nothing that you have to check with. Like you don't have to check the song with continuity for things that happens 5 years ago when you were in another relationship, living at home or anywhere else. Like you can just write. It is more straightforward. I will say, like it's different in many ways. Have you heard any of the singles?
Yeah, I've heard all the like new EP and I've heard like a few older singles as well.
Because there's a difference, right?
Yeah, especially like musically, I felt there's a lot
Yeah.
more experimentation in the new stuff as well with like electronics, and we were going to touch on that later. But yeah, we can
Okay.
definitely hear some other influences in there.
Yeah, just in general, that whole, I guess it's more straightforward in some ways, the music that we make now compared to 10 years ago. But not a lot of people know who we are. So it's really only the people in the band who think of that change, I guess. And some people who saw us a long time ago. But yeah, there's lots of details and experimentation to try to make it original or interesting and yeah, not boring.
Yeah, I always find like, I think when you strip it back a little bit more, I think that you surprise yourself with like what you can do. Because I think a lot of people when they go to like write music, they're like, yeah, but I want it to like be like this, I want it to be like that. But it's like, well, no, like just trim some of the fat. Do you know what I mean? Just trim some of that, and then when you get the end product, then decide if you want to add more. But if you've got that and it's solid, it's fine. Don't go, well, I need to like my biggest pet peeve is when someone goes, I need to stretch out a song to 3 minutes. You don't. If it's a good 1 minute and a half song, it's a good 1 minute and a half song.
Let it be 1 minute and a half.
Yeah, it's a pet peeve whenever someone's like, no, it needs to be 3 minutes. I'm like, nah. If you look at, there's great albums like hardcore albums, punk albums, where it's just an entire list of like 20 different 1 minute songs, and the album's amazing.
You can also just be cynical about it. Like if you make a good 1 minute song, people will actually play it again.
Yeah, like, but if you make like an all right 3 minute song,
yeah,
like then they're gonna be like, ah, well, what's the point? You need, like I think stripping the fat is beneficial to a lot of bands, and if I think if a lot of bands stepped out of the mindset of like we need to add more to it, then I feel like a lot of more people would go a lot like would be surprised on what they can do with their sound.
Yeah.
One
and
thing
just not waste people's focus. Like people have decided to check out your band, and you're gonna trick them into staying. It's just, it's rude.
But the it's like tech deaf and like like really technical stuff. I say to Brad like it doesn't necessarily translate to me just because a lot of the times I feel like there's too much going on, and in a lot of cases I feel like it's like these guys just forgot to put a song in here. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes it just
Yeah.
feels like that. So yeah, I think stripping it back and really going down to like basics of like, okay, what do we like? What don't we like? Okay, we like this. Let's just make this. And if we want to do anything else with it, we'll add it after. But right now, that's good. Do you know what I mean? Like, one thing as well I wanted to sort of ask you is what was like the band that made you want to get into like doing like metalcore? And do you ever like pull from those like early inspirations even now?
Yes, it will be the easiest answer, the most cliche answer. There's this band called Architects.
Who?
It's there's a guy there who screams and sings at the same time, and it's a powerful sound. I remember pretending to swim on my living room floor when I turned 18 to Devil's Island, if you remember that song. First time being super drunk and also really enjoying that state of mind. And then I went to see them a couple of, I think 2 months later, supporting Rise Against, who I also liked. And that just made an impression. So that era of Architects, I forget the name of the album, the gray one, the one that not a lot of people like, but it's really good. Or I guess, I don't know, people have different opinions on that, but that era of Architects is kind of like the standard for vocals and stuff in the back here.
Yeah, I mean Sam Carter he's the goat. Like, when it comes to metalcore, you don't go past Sam Carter. He's just incredible, like in his performance. And I don't think anybody has mastered the sing scream as much as he has. Like that it just
Nope.
sounds like one vocal instead of switching between two. It's weird though, because like I'd say me and Nathan are probably like we got into Architects a bit later. So like
Yeah, I got on way late, way
we're
late.
very much like Holy Hell onwards Architects, but I still like some of the older stuff. But I'd say I resonate more with Holy Hell because that's like my era of Architects, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But he's
Did
incredible
you
though.
have any like? Were you able to see them before you became like interested?
We saw them afterwards, yeah.
Yeah, we so like Brad for my birthday surprised me like with tickets with it for it.
Yeah.
So we went and yeah, it was great. I mean, like I wish I'd have seen him in a smaller venue like before because I
Where did
feel
you?
like
How big was the venue? Was like
it was First Direct Arena, so it's ridiculously massive. I mean, it sounds amazing in an arena, but
yeah,
like I feel like if it were more intimate, it would have impacted me like differently. If that makes any sense.
probably. Another key thing about Architects, in addition to them being really good, is that they played Norway pretty early, like before even the stuff I'm talking about which is 2012. Like they were here in like 2008 and stuff, uh, doing the
Oh
only
wow.
festival we had.
So you're like an OG Architects fan then?
No, I'm not, but Vebjørn is because he saw them then.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
That is
we
awesome
were
though.
saying we always say that Architects was like the metalcore band that did it so well that they became a like they transitioned out of metalcore without even like having to obviously doing it. They just like nailed it that well and changed that much over the
Yeah.
years. Where it's like, oh, I wouldn't really class them, that new album as metalcore anymore. It was kind of like a surprise sort of
Yeah.
thing where like they just did it that well. It made it harder for everyone else to be like, oh yeah, I've got a riff idea. No, that's an Architects riff. Oh no, it's an Architects riff.
It probably is. Yeah.
I want to say as well, on the basis of metalcore, because I read something else that one of you guys said in an interview, which I never really thought about before. But obviously, like Norway is known for its black metal and it's known for its death metal, and that's like predominantly the driving force. What's it like being a metalcore band over there? And like, I think someone said like it's harder being a metalcore band in Norway than it is, being like I don't know, a death metal band or a black metal band. Has that changed, or do you think like you didn't agree with that statement?
I stand behind the statement. uh, for sure. But I don't know. There's not any bad blood. It's mostly a generational thing, and since everybody knows about the black metal stuff and it's kind of from here, then it makes sense that that's more known, that it gets more attention. That's fine. But it's mostly a generational thing. Like younger people like newer music, I guess. It's mostly older people who are into that black metal stuff, and they're a minority. But like I've seen Mayhem live. It's amazing. You wouldn't believe how.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, but like older records sound like super thin, but they have the best bass sound I've ever heard. That was the biggest surprise.
I get what you're saying with that, because I found when I listen to them, it doesn't sound like as good as it does live.
Have you seen them?
Yeah, I managed to see them.
Then
but like, like it was like on the record, it was one of those where it's like, well, yeah, no, this is a good song, but it just kind of it feels like it's missing something. But then then you see it live, you're like, this is the same fucking thing. How is this much? There's this much of a difference. Like,
it sounds like a chainsaw with like an octave below dubbing it.
Yeah.
No,
it really does.
Really cool. I think it's because he's the only original member left that he gets to decide that. That's my theory. I don't know what you guys
I'm
think.
doing this tonight.
Yeah. That's my band. The bass comes first. Yeah, just like Maiden, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, like what you said about like the black metal thing, I mean, it's the same in the UK, really. Like, we had the British new wave of heavy metal bands like Iron Maiden and Black Sabbath. And, I guess like the older heads would listen to that stuff. And then, mostly people listen to metalcore here. Like, we've got Bring Me the Horizon Architects, and because a lot of the biggest metalcore bands are from the UK, that's probably why, people listen to that more than other genres, I guess. We still got a diverse bunch, but yeah, I'd say that, yeah.
I find specifically where we live, Leeds has the best hardcore scene. Yeah. Like I feel like in the UK. However, anything other than that, you don't know. Like, it's because like I remember trying to go to like local shows. I found before I got into hardcore, it was way harder to find like local bands. But then I get into hardcore. It's like there's like 25 playing tonight.
That's true. To be fair,
sounds like hardcore. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like there's 25 playing tonight. It's free entry. Have fun.
What's the biggest band from Leeds? Like
hardcore
in the metalcore adjacent genre.
I'd say it's weird that really. I'd say Higher Power. Are definitely one of the biggest bands from
Leeds.
It
has to be Higher Power, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'd say Higher Power are definitely like the biggest.
Leeds probably like Cryptic Shift. I mean, they're pretty big
in terms
now.
of like metal death metal. Yeah, Cryptic Shift are like are quite big, but I think just on like a level in terms of popularity alone, and not like including any scenes in there, I'd definitely say Higher Power, because they're one of the only bands I know from Leeds that have done that much shit. So yeah, I'd definitely say Higher Power is probably the biggest from around here.
Okay, and non-metalcore.
No, they're like I find them like non-metalcore.
No, but like what's the biggest metalcore thing?
I can give you like the most like the non-metal biggest band from Leeds. It'd probably be the Kaiser Chiefs.
Okay, yeah, I see.
Great bands, not metal related, but yeah, I mean that they are pretty famous and from Leeds. But yeah, there's not too many like bands. I say again, like Cryptic Shift for death metal, metalcore, or maybe like Higher Power, or like slash hardcore. But yeah, still waiting for that big breakthrough band, I guess.
So Higher Power, if I'm ever in Leeds.
Yeah, the great band. I would recommend. Yeah,
highly recommend. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Also, well, whilst we're on the sort of subject of metalcore in general, what's some of your metalcore hot takes? I thought this would be like a fun one.
I don't know.
Or it could be like
Uh,
just general metal hot takes, like
yeah, I don't like to argue. I don't like conflict, but yeah, I don't know. I was thinking a bit about like when we were talking about architects, because like, of course, I prefer the old stuff, and that's fine. But like, were Bring Me the Horizon ever a metalcore band? Like, that's like how many
Yeah,
years ago is that? Because when I chose architects, or a lot of people were like praising Bring Me the Horizon, but I've never understood it. Absolutely never understood it.
I don't know. I find like Bring Me the Horizon have always been that one band that I've always been ahead of step of the curve. Like when
Yeah,
Sempiternal
but
came out,
is it just because people thought Ollie was handsome, or what's the deal?
I think like when Sempiternal came out, it was really like incredible for that for the bands. Like it was a very different album to everything else that was out at the time. And you knew because a lot of bands started copying them after that. But even after that,
Yeah,
they've still managed to like do a different style album every time, pull in different influences. And again, loads of bands will start copying what they're doing. So I think based on that, the influence that they've had, very good band.
I
I
will say that I'm sorry for
oh,
interrupting,
no
Nathan,
worries,
but
no worries.
like the Sempiternal, Shadow Moses, etc. Those were the first songs I heard that I understood. Like they're cohesive. There's an idea here. There's a cool riff. There's a chorus done properly. But they made that when they made that they didn't need to make another album. Like they had been big in like the band for a long time already, and that's where my issue is.
So they
Like
didn't need to do that. So it's like,
no,
you
so
didn't.
I don't think it counts when discussing this because like the it was a good answer though, but like all the older songs like Anthem and Alligator Blood and etc. There's they're not cohesive. There's like
That is
it's
a hot
like
take, to be fair.
it
I'll give you that.
it sounds like a sound check, and like a really good one, but like in that it's just one riff and like nothing really. It doesn't go anywhere.
I see, fair, I do get that. I think like
Thank you.
the thing with like, I think the thing with Bring Me the Horizon was and is, I think they've just never stopped with like they never lost momentum. The minute they got like any bit of momentum, they just kept running. It's like, right, what can we do now? What can we do now? And they just constantly fucking did that shit and just constantly rode the fuck out of the wave and just created new ones along the way to the point where now like they've got to be like the biggest band from the scene ever.
Yeah, on top
Like
of that as
except for
well,
Metallica, like
Different
and it's
scene.
like a
different
different
scene, but
scene. But the thing is, like when I think astronomically big bands, I think Metallica Bring Me the Horizon.
Interesting. Yep.
Like that's where my mind goes. I think in terms of more people would recognize Bring Me the Horizon, and
especially
more
in the
people would
UK.
recognize Metallica more than anything.
Yeah, and I think as well, like Bring Me the Horizon have like never been afraid to collaborate with someone, I guess, not strange, but like different to the metal scene, like as much as they have. Like they've collaborated with like Ed Sheeran and like Nerva Twins, all this kind of stuff, like that you wouldn't really expect. Like Lucifer as well on more recent songs, which I think is like, I think they're like sort of bending genres, which I think some bands are kind of afraid to do in a way. Which I think that's what I respect about them because I think the more bands collaborate from different genres, the bigger each genre might get. So yeah,
No, I get that, and they've obviously done everything right, and they're hugely influential, and they'll never know that I exist, so I can say whatever I want. And I saw them last year on the new biggest rock festival we have here in Norway, and it was really good. It's just I struggle to understand that part because I'm all for blending genres and stuff. Like when I heard Cold Shoulders by Hacktivist and however many years ago, was one of the last times I really got a huge kick out of hearing something I hadn't heard before up until that point, and that's genre blending as well.
yeah, Hacktivists are
So
pretty good at that, to be fair.
yeah,
Um, So I want to go into because I know that you guys have used different stuff in your music as well. Like it's not just straightforward metalcore. You've got like a lot of electronic fusion in there.
Yep.
Especially when I look at stuff like Oh My, and you've got like the piano melodies in there too.
Yep.
I think every song on the EP sort of has a breath of fresh air, and no song sounds like the last one. How was it creating these soundscapes?
Um,
Like, did you plan them all to be different, or did they sort of turn out the way that what you were feeling in that moment?
I guess it's more kind of trying new stuff. Like if you go back to the oldest record you find, it's going to be a lot of breakdowns and riffs, etc. But Vebjørn's innermost musician only listens to Oasis and
Oasis.
Rammstein, I think. Went from Slipknot to those two. I have a diverse background from lots of different kinds of music, playing mostly, and some singing. But most of the soundscape stuff, or not most, like Webern makes a lot himself by twisting sounds you find online, but there's a guy in Bergen, which is another Norwegian city, called Jon. He's a really good friend of ours, and he does EDM.
Oh wow, okay.
And so I'm guessing Vebjørn has seen some kind of cinematic stuff on some big screen or small screen. He's been inspired to make a riff of some sort, and he's thinking, I need those soundtrack sounds done well this time, and I need some programmed beats, and we know a guy who does them really well. And he's also from the metalcore scene originally. So we have collaborated a lot with him also this time.
Awesome, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think about like the EDM influence, but yeah, it kind of makes sense now that you mentioned it.
Yep.
I
Is it
also
so
got
you...
like, oh, go on, Brad.
Sorry, you gone.
I also got like in a couple of songs I got like a drum and bass sort of feel in certain sections. Like when you're sort of picking from that, what's like the weird from where it's like find it when you're trying to find inspiration where you're like, okay, I have like I've listened to something like this before. What if we tried using this? What's like the weirdest place you've sort of picked that from? If that makes
I
any
don't
sense.
know. My internet cut while you were asking the question,
Oh,
but
sorry.
the motivation for using it is that it works really well live, which is where music should be enjoyed. Like it becomes like this hacktivist kind of feeling, and it opens people's. I find that it opens people's minds a bit. That sounds weird to say, but
I completely
like
agree with you.
yeah, because like there'll be like a metal show, and then they'll hear that, and they'll realize that okay, maybe not every rule applies here, and they'll maybe relax a bit or even try dancing or something, which is it's hard to get Norwegians to dance, so we'll take it. Yeah.
Have you made a few Norwegians dance and played any shows?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
It's not my fault, but
mission
they
accomplished.
have reacted to our music with dance. Yeah, it has happened, and it's always a blast when it does.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you personally like a lot of different stuff. Then, what would you say is like what is your guilty pleasure, or maybe it's not even guilty, but what do you listen to when the metal's put to bed?
Uh, anything really. It's I tend to lag a couple of years behind the rest of society. Maybe 2 to 4 years, 5 years at times. So I'll let music digest in my head and then I'll check it out. So, 1975 stuff. There's some Norwegian rock from the 80s I started listening to this week. There's you know the Midnight, right? The synth pop thing, the Midnight.
I think so.
Check it out. It's
Will
great.
do.
Uh, just
They sound
anything that I
familiar, but I
find. I'm
can't say
sorry.
I've listen to.
What?
Oh, sorry. I think there was a bit of a like there. I said they sounded familiar to myself, but I can't remember really listening to them.
No. It's you might know like the Time Cop thing
Yeah, I think that's
or
where I'm remembering.
Gunship, maybe. It's that
Yeah.
kind of sound. But anything that I find like musically interesting, like on like a nerdy level, I'll listen to, and I'm not afraid to like admit stuff is catchy either. Like there's good stuff in a lot of hits, even though they're corny. So it's a
Yeah,
really
definitely.
broad answer. I don't have like a specific that one, but I just like music. How's that like for you, Nathan? Like, do you think a lot about how pop music is written, or is there a hook here for me, like musically, or do you just go into it's not metal, fuck it?
No, I pull from like anything really. So like if because I've got like I've got a chill playlist where it's like there's like 300 songs on there. It's like 27 hours long. But so a lot of times when I'm writing, I'll go, what is something interesting from all aspects? So like there might be a fill that a vocalist has used in like a 70s song that I thought that's actually a really good way to seg it into like a breakdown. So I'll try something like that in a more metal sense. So like I never just lean into metal only. I always like look at it as well, come at it with a different angle
Yep.
and see if what how different it sounds, and if it sounds good, keep it.
Do you ever go
I mean, there's
back
been a
into
lot where I've tried it. Oh,
yeah? Do you ever check out stuff that you just never gave a chance when you were a kid because you were a metalhead? Like, do
oh
you?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What?
Mate, that's my entire like life at the
Yeah, same.
moment. Like going back, the band that I never gave chance was Fall Out Boy. Used to think, yeah, it's not
Wow.
metal,
Oh,
hate
by
'em.
great.
So good. So
Strong
good.
word, but went back to them. Well, went back to them. I was like, this shit's amazing.
Yeah, it
But
is.
I can tell you so many times where
it's
because I
like
when I was young
fucking
when I was younger.
15-year-old Nathan just write this off. I was like, this is great.
Yeah, when I was younger, like I used to be like a
Oh,
proper
am I lagging
toxic.
again?
Yeah, you are. When I was like really young, I used to be like a pretty toxic little thrash kid. So like I used to think that everything that's not thrash is shit. I called like Linkin Park shit. I called Deftones shit. I called so many bands. And then
I
now,
think I've seen your comments on YouTube, actually.
yeah. 7 years ago, this band's fucking shit. But now I really love them now. Like when I get angry at myself for like thinking, oh, why did I diss all these bands? Like I used to hate pop punk. I love pop punk now. Yeah, so much has changed, to be honest. Like
Have you ever seen Neck Deep live? Like, since you live close
I'd
by?
I'd love to see Neck Deep live, but
Yeah,
I've never got the chance. I know they play we've got a festival called Slam Dunk in Leeds. And I know they
I'm
play that.
familiar.
Yeah, I'd like to see them there. I'm a big fan of Neck Deep now.
It's great.
Yeah. I've gone back and I feel like if I had a time machine, I'd go back to younger Nathan and be like, you're a
Slap
fucking
in the
idiot.
face.
Yeah, it's like you're an idiot. I was like, I've been listening to this shit, right? You'd have loved it. Back in the day, like you'd have loved it.
But you have to let society move on, and then it's safe for us to check out. What was this? Was
Yeah,
this
like
any good?
I
Yeah.
think as I've got older, my music tastes have just broadened to like for me, it's like as long as it's like good, don't matter what genre it is.
Yeah, for sure.
Like if it's a good pop song, it's a good pop song. If it's a good, if it's a good rock song, it's a good rock song. If it's a good like 80s synth random, like weird track, it's a good, 80s synth random weird track. I don't like now. I don't go, it's not metal. I'm not listening to it because I think if you if you're a musician and you write music and you only come in from that one angle, you won't know it, but the music will suffer because
Yeah.
you won't have that sort of sense of, oh well, in fact, if we flowed it kind of like this, might sound better.
I like trying to put myself in the headspace of like, what was it like hearing this at the time? Like I heard a surf rock instrumental last like 2 days ago that I hadn't heard before, and I'm originally a guitar player, and it's just it's really catchy and nice, and you can dance to it. But just trying to imagine what was it like hearing this when you weren't used to hearing electric music, and actually thinking this was hard. It's a fun exercise to do.
On the topic of like,
do that.
on the topic of
Wow,
like
the shadows, amazing,
yeah,
hardest shit ever.
On the topic of like surf rock, I think I was with one of my friends and he was showing me some YouTube videos, and as if you like change the tuning of black metal, it sounds like surf rock riffs.
Yeah,
Turn
no,
up
if
the
you take the
distortion.
distortion off,
Yeah.
I was like, this has blown my
there's something
mind.
there.
It sounds really
Yeah.
good as well.
It
sounds
does.
good.
It does.
Yeah. You were playing like mayhem riffs, and I'm there
Yeah.
like, mate, this is surf rock. This is straight up fucking surf rock. On the sort of point of like framing, you know, like what music was when you know, like imagining what it were like when it first released.
Yeah.
I remember a really funny story of when I was in this studio. Our producer Adam, he was like really late at night, and like we've been like working all day, and we're kind of just chilling out, just eating some food, and he goes, "Do you guys want me to show you the first ever beatdown ever created?" And I was there like, "Yeah, go on." So he fucking pulls it up on YouTube like in 2 seconds. It was like this death metal band from Australia. He's like, "Right, before you listen to it, let me paint you a scene. You live in Australia. You're kind of into metal." He went, "You know, you've just come from the beach. You've been surfing all day, and you hear this." Plays it, and it's the dirtiest like breakdown I've ever heard. And he goes, "You'd want to fucking kill someone, wouldn't you?" It's just like I was there, like, yeah, you would. Like, I could just imagine the crowd, like when that first played. It would have been the most crazy shit. Like,
Absolutely. That kind of context always matters a lot.
Yeah.
oh yeah, it just
definitely.
when you were talking about it, just reminded me of it because that was like probably one of the funniest things that happened in the studio. Was just like it was how we said it. It was just like you'd want to fucking kill someone. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm right. Yeah,
you brought us there now. So yeah.
I want to say as well, because I respect, you know, you talked about diversity in like music, but I also respect the diversity in like how you guys will tour with, you know, you're not tied to one genre. Like we're only going to tour with metalcore bands. Like, you know, you go from like Enslaved to Emir, like it doesn't matter. And which I think is really
Yeah.
important because, you know, there's certain bands, you know, like Power Trip used to do that, and I think that really served them well. So how is it playing like an Enslaved show as opposed to playing like a fucking Emir show?
I never played the Enslaved shows because I was the bass player and I'd hurt my hands, so I had to go to university. Well, they had fun. But Amur was really cool, and I would say it's pretty close in terms of like it's a metalcore show. But I know that the rest of the guys, this was before I sang, like in the bass playing phase. They toured Europe with 1349. Are you familiar? It's a black metal band.
Great band.
yeah, I've heard of them.
They got a lot of hate, especially in England, I think, England and Germany. Like
England, really?
from these
I'm
older
I'm not surprised. Like, we
diehard
have
black
the most
metal.
negative fans ever.
No, but I find it interesting because in those days I think there was one clean chorus in all of Atena's songs, and it was sung by me, and I wasn't there, so it wasn't a part of the set list. It was more of a, I don't know, deathcore inspired sound. So if that was already too far off, I just don't understand the logic because there was only screaming and like distorted 8 strings. But I think that you have to think of it like from the perspective of the people who actually pay to go to see the show, and like variety is just a big plus. As long as all the bands are good, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah.
And that's why we do that.
I don't get why people get mad at like, you know, a support act that's different either. Or even if you don't like the support acts, like I don't know why people get mad. Like you're still gonna see the band that you want to come see. So just like go get a drink or something if you're not into it. I don't know why people complain.
I hate that shit. Like when people go, "Oh, well, I came here to listen to it," and then it's like, well, would you rather have 5 black metal bands just droning? Like, I mean, by that time that headliner comes on, you can be like, "I'm fucking done with this now." Or would you rather have 5 varied bands? It's like, these are a bit fucking different. I'd choose the latter because I think if I only went to a show and they only ever had that one genre on, I'd lose my mind.
You should have the tribute act opening for the main actual act.
Honestly,
It'll be a
It's three,
sick
three,
show. Yeah.
3:30, cover acts.
Yeah.
honestly,
A lot
if
of
I see
numbers.
like if when I see I see like a big lineup, but it's all the same genre, I'm gonna be like, well, I always see it as like I'm gonna sit there and I know the headliner's gonna come on. I'm gonna be like, I'm really sick of death metal now.
But what's that like if you go to see one of those Leeds hardcore nights if all the 25 bands are playing the same night?
Well, they sound so different from each other. They all pull from
They
a
do.
different source in a
Okay,
way.
that's good.
Like so,
Healthy.
like you might go and you like Split Knuckle. They're like a British like hardcore
Badass
band.
name.
It's a great name, but like they have like almost metalcore sections.
Yeah.
But then they have ridiculous like breakdowns. But then just also weird death metal like sections to like sort of bridge into like a main chorus. And like that shit is like because there's that much of a varied mix, you're there like, okay, well, I'm getting like three bands in this one singular band.
Great.
So like that's great. And then you might get someone that's like, oh, their inspiration was Madball. They're basically like trying to be a Leeds Madball. So you get in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
old school punk. Then you might get someone that's a bit more metalcore, but then you might also get someone that's like a bit more modern hardcore. But they've all got their unique sort of stamp. Where I find with like local metal shows, a lot of them try to pull from the same place. Whereas like I feel like metal's quite traditionalist, and they would like if you go to like a local death metal show, a lot of them will be going. If you ask them what's your inspiration, to be like Morbid Angel, Cannibal Corpse, and it'd be like the same four bands. So they're
Yeah.
like it's because they're all pulling from the same place. I find there's a lot less variety in like the sound. There's a lot of death metal bands now. They've mixed hardcore and like loads of other shit that sound great. And I think that's the key when you look at it from a different angle, it's better. But yeah, like hardcore, it just hits a bit different. I find that each band has a unique flavor to them, and when you leave, you go, they were fucking sick, and they sounded different to the other guys.
Yep.
Which was something when I went to local like metal shows as a whole. Sometimes I thought, yeah, kind of samey in some sections, but they were still good.
But I will say, like, in terms of the question, like, we haven't only played with like harder bands. We've played like with harder bands in different genres, but also with like more poppier bands. Like, are you familiar with, for instance, like Amarampe from Sweden?
I think so.
Yeah, I don't
Amarampe,
think so.
I guess. No, but it's more like Nightwish-ish,
Okay.
but more poppy. And like in those contexts, we're also kind of not at home. Or like with Dead by April, which is also poppier, or bands like that. And like the thing that always works for us, like people either don't like the breakdowns, and then they are like inspired by the D&B beats and stuff, which makes them realize that, okay, I'm here to have a good time, not to judge whatever this is and how my image is affected by being seen here. Like it opens them to the experience. And then like for the people who like hard stuff, then they'll enjoy the parts that are brutal and then just go have a drink when it's not, I guess. So
yeah, something for everyone, right?
Yeah, it's always nice to. I've yet to have like a really bad experience doing a gig like that, I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I found like the worst cases of like people being like, like really complaining was when Bloodstock announced Parkway as like a headliner. Like that day, on the comments, it was like, it shaved years off my life reading some of them because I was getting so angry. Like I saw someone going, "Well, I guess I'll be drinking wine in my tent all night, not wasting my time seeing them." And I thought, "You do that, you do that, but why didn't you just do it quietly?" Do you know what I mean? Just like, why did you have to voice a shitty opinion? And it's like, well, why couldn't they get so and so on? It's like, well, you know what, Pete, I want to see him, and there's like probably a good few thousand people who are also going to Bloodstock wanting to see him, right? instead of spending time being negative, just don't see him if they're not your cup of tea. Just don't see him.
And
Like,
it's
that's
always
the answer.
it's always worth it to see a band you haven't heard before live before you hear them, I think.
Definitely. And let me tell you, like, that whole stadium outside space was like completely packed out. So despite what people said, people still turned up and then had a good time.
Because they
The-
make pirate metal now, so if he's been drinking all night, he's ready for it, right?
But the thing is, like, it was like probably one of the best live performances I've seen at a festival. Like, I remember just being like, holy shit, they had like a fucking choir come on stage. Like people with violins and cellos were setting fire off all the fucking time, and I thought, this is sick. Anyone that were like, I'm gonna drink my wine in my tent, I'm having a better time. So yeah, that was like one thing that just annoyed me. I was like, stop voicing these shitty opinions and just enjoy the varied mix of bands that we've got in the scene at the moment.
Yeah. I also would like to advocate checking out like older bands that are still going that you only know one song of, like perceived one-hit wonders. They can be good live. I had an experience last year seeing Accept, like the German band.
Oh, yeah, I know they are.
Obviously a one-hit wonder to most of us, but it was super cool. They had 3 guys with flying V's, which is illegal, but it was super cool. Perfect.
Yeah, you can't have 3 guys with flying V's. You can have at least 2 and maybe
maximum,
a Les Paul, but that's
2.
it.
And the third guy was wearing almost all black, so I didn't catch him with my eyes until like halfway through the show, which just made it an even better experience. Is that one more?
Definitely.
I'm surprised there wasn't a Les Paul somewhere, because I mean, like, I get the flying V's, but I would have, if going to a show like that, I'd have expected to see at least like 3 guitar switch outs and one of them being a Les Paul at some point, or even 2 of them being like a Les Paul.
Of course, double neck Les Paul. Imagine the back pain.
Definitely. So we've got one more question for you.
Sure.
So if this was the zombie apocalypse and you were with your bandmates and you had to choose the most reliable person to the least reliable person, who would you choose and why?
It's the correct answer to say that it's tricky, but it is actually tricky because we've been in zombie apocalypse adjacent situations or similar situations before, and we are actually a good team. I'm sure we would fit as like roles in a movie because we have different strengths. I can drive a car, for instance.
As important.
Can handle a microphone. No, but I don't know. Our bass player is never stressed. I've never seen him stress ever in my life, and he's super strong, like gym strong, like lifting stuff strong. So that would have its place in terms of like, I guess, defending against the zombies. Yeah, our drummer is like an IT guy. He becomes nervous easily, but he can plan stuff and I guess steer our rations or something. I don't know. Vebjørn comes from a military family. I'm sure he knows how to shoot. He's never showed us, but that would be nice. And I don't know. Maybe I'm the least reliable one.
But hang on, you can't pick yourself. That is the rule.
Okay. No, but I'm taking them all. That's my final answer.
Okay, I'll accept it.
Thank you.
We're saying to Nathan, like, we always love like the different responses we get. Like some people give like a very political answer. Oh, I don't know, like everyone's got the use. And other people it's like, yeah, it's Dave from the band. He's just shit. He's gonna kill us all.
You see, I had that. So when we first asked that, I had that at band practice where
we know,
like,
Nathan.
Yeah, I know I've said it before, but I immediately picked our guitarist Dylan, and I'll never forget. I'll never like got down because I was like, here's the thing. We remember when we were in Greece, Brad. He just complained about a lot of shit.
Yeah, so did you.
I did as well. Yeah, I admit. But the thing is, Dylan would like seriously slow us down. So it would be like, I'm sorry, Dylan. Love you, man. One of my best friends, but I want to survive.
Yeah,
I'm sure Vebjørn and Frederick would be the last ones alive because they can at some point switch to just sustaining themselves off of cigarettes instead of eating. they're already kind of used to that. So yeah, me and Ulrik we need too much food. It wouldn't work in the end or in the long. Yeah,
Me too. I'm too hungry.
high five.
But yeah, honestly, thank you so much for coming on. I really
no
enjoyed
worries.
listening to EP. It was great to chat with you about all the random stuff.
Nice to be here.
Yeah, it's been really cool, honestly.
It's been great having you on, man.
Yeah, check out our new record.
Yes.
It's about 2 months and it's out. Just Atena without an H.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, awesome. Thank you, and hopefully someday we'll see you play the UK.
That would be great. Looking forward to it.
Awesome
Definitely.
stuff.
All right. Bye.
All right, take care.
Take care.